We have an unusual request asking for a quick tip on space construction. This person says that, I believe this was a she or a he, whatever, has looked for it on YouTube and can't find anything about space construction. So let's construct some space. So what this is not about is painting outer space. Space construction goes way back into the early abstractionist era. In fact, it goes back much further than that. What it means is, within the boundaries of any painting surface, there is space that you are constructing. Now, realistic painters that go way, way back, and painters that deal with all kinds of images from all different kinds of subjects and so on, they were doing that, but they weren't necessarily thinking about it as simply space construction. When the space construction came into the primary consideration was when images started going away, when artists became more interested in the abstraction of images than they were images themselves. And so it's not a new thing. In fact, you can look at cave paintings and see space construction. Well, we're going to go down just to the bare bones of what most artists who paint or who think they're painting in the space construction, you might call it technique. It is a technique, but it's more than that. It's a concept. So if you're painting or if you want to explore abstract concepts, then this is what this is about. Before I begin a demonstration to kind of show you how this works, I want to recommend a book to you. If you're really interested in the whole concept of the surface of the canvas being space into which you are constructing, this is your guy, Rudolf Arnheim. This goes way, way back, Art and Visual Perception. It goes way, way back. I think he wrote it maybe in the early 50s or 60s. So it has been the, you might say, the gospel on space construction for decades and decades and decades. So if you're really interested in going that route, I suggest this book. Now, so we got the space here. All right, first forget imagery. This is not about imagery. It's not about painting landscape or painting still life. It's not any of that. It's simply about the painting space within a boundary of four edges. That's it. And so how does that go? Well, it might go in different directions. Now, two examples here are from the painter Kandinsky. He painted during the really early 20th century. And he was more concerned with space construction, how colors, textures, lines, directions of lines, values, all those things, what we know as the visual language, those were the things that he was concerned about organizing into space by the way they are, by where they're placed in the space, constructing the space, how they might repeat each other, how they might contrast with each other. They might contrast in value. They might contrast in shape. They might contrast in direction. So that's just one example. But if you go back and look at abstraction paintings from history, or even those being done today, you can see, if you don't look for something, don't look for a meaning, don't look for all those things that might mislead you. Just look for how the space is constructed. How is color used to construct the space? How is color repeated? How is color isolated? And those kinds of things. So let me just take you through one way that you might do that, but it's not the only way. It's just one way to think. So I might say, I might want to just create a painting that's nothing about nothing but visual movement. Just that, nothing else. And so there'd be a number of ways I can do that. Now here's what I know about visual movement. I know that visually things can move vertically. Space can move vertically. I can put a bunch of vertical lines right here and I'll have your eye moving vertically. Can move horizontally. Visual movement can move horizontally. I could put put a whole series of horizontal lines here and have your eye moving horizontally. Visual movement can move in a circle. So I could just do a circular thing here and have your eyes moving in a circle. Or visual movement can move diagonally. That means it will be in some direction other than vertical or horizontal. So diagonal could be any of that. And when you have one diagonal, you'll usually have an opposite diagonal. So let me just show you a little bit about how you'd go about doing that. Or just say, what's going to be our subject for this painting? The subject's going to be movement with diagonals. So if it's just that, if it's nothing else, I'm not trying to do anything else. I'm just trying to create something that moves or create some sort of dynamic movement with diagonal movements. Then what would I do? Well, I could start anywhere. I'm not trying to replicate an image of anything. So what I might do, and what you might do or not, I might start with a value of contrast. I've got light here. So I might start, now what I want to use is diagonal movement. I don't want to use anything else except diagonal movement. So how I create this diagonal movement will be my technique. So I might do something like this. I might start here and there. I've made a diagonal movement. Now I've constructed the space now by having this line fit against this, 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 and this. And what an abstract teacher will often tell you is when you put the first line down, you've actually put the fifth line down. So there's one direction. Now I might change it just a little bit. I might just change the color a little bit, keep it still a little bit in the dark range. But I might change the color or not and create a counter movement. Then I want you to watch what happens to the space. So I'll create a counter movement to that, and I'll just go in this direction. Well, it didn't change much, but that's all right. So I'll go in that direction. Now, some artists will want to make a really fast brush movement that goes in that direction, or it could be a slow brush movement. This and this are the same length. Now, we've created something else that's important to space construction, and that is negative and positive space. That's where the term comes from. So what's happening now, I've created negative space where these movements begin to create shapes within the white space. That's construction. So by using the diagonal movement, I have created negative space here, here, and all in here. This ends up being positive space. It's the space that controls the movement. All right, so then I begin to, maybe I could begin now to sort of randomly move over the piece. Let's begin to get some light in here. Get some in. I'm not considering color yet. I'm just considering the value of contrast that causes that movement. So I might, all right, this moves this way. I might want to repeat that movement. So I might repeat a little variation. So I might make a movement that moves in this direction. I might just take it right to the edge. Now I have subdivided the space, and now I have this movement going here, here, and here. Now let me just keep that going. Let's change the color just a little bit more, so we get just a little bit more of a variation in color. And let's see, so let's get a counter again, another counter here, and let it go in that direction, still in diagonal. And let's just pick it up right over here. In fact, let's have it go behind that one. Now you can see now we're beginning to get more and more movement and more of a subdivision of space. You see how this goes? Well, then let's try something else. Let's get some middle value colors going. So I will just change the whole color. I'm going to keep this kind of neutral, the color kind of neutral. And I'm going to begin to vary the width. So let's see, now what do I need to happen? Or we've got this, this, and this. Suppose I want to do this. Suppose I want to just bring your eye right this way, and I'll continue it right over here, and I'll make a fatter movement. Now we begin to see more subdivision of space. That's beginning to get sort of almost in conflict with these. Well, what can we do about that? Well, let's repeat that. Let's repeat the color. Let's repeat the color, and let's counter the movement. So let's see, what can I do there? I think maybe this goes this way. I think maybe I might just bring it right up in here like that and kind of move that like that. and just let that sort of taper like that. All right, now keep subdividing the space, and we've got all this movement going on. So what could I do there next? So I'm going to change the color just a little bit, keep the same color in the brush, but lighten it up just a little bit. And let's get that, keep some degree of that color. And I'm going to use even a wider stroke. Now what I'm going to do here, I've got this, this, and this. And so let's see, what if we do this? What if we just sort of start here on the edge and begin to move the brush just like that. And let's just let it join here, like that. Well, now you can see that begins to feel a little bit out of balance. So what if we just took that movement and pick it up and skip right here, let's say. So you can play these games with yourself. Skip that right there and keep that movement going in this direction. And what if we just sort of let it taper out like that? But now we get a different kind of movement. So you see, we get now something that's beginning to look like an abstract painting. Lots of negative space. Look at these, how these negative spaces are moving, and we're beginning to get a little bit more action in there. So what we could do from this point, we could begin to build in the negative space. We could begin to build a color relationship, sort of like Kandinsky's done here. He's built kind of a movement that moves sort of what we would call a gradation movement. It moves this way, then this way, then this way, kind of in a clock movement. Ours is a little different, so we might take it just another step further, and we could keep going. I'm not going to do a complete thing here, just to show you how the whole thing works. And you can see every mark I made changed the marks that were already there. Every mark I put down changed the negative space, and it created a different kind of movement. So now, if I want color to start playing a role in that, I could begin to say, all right, I'd like the color of yellow, some variation of the color of yellow. And I'm sort of referring to Kandinsky here and not. So I might say I want some variation of yellow, but I want to keep, let's pull it right over here like this. I'm saying to myself, I want to keep that, I want to keep the light in the negative space. So this is why you talk to yourself. When you're working in abstract painting and you're doing spatial construction, you talk to yourself about what you're doing to this space, how you're constructing this space, and how what you're doing is causing, every brush stroke you put down is causing other things to happen. So what I might do there is I might go like right up in here and I say, okay, that is too near the same value. I want to keep that concept of light there. So if I want to keep that concept of light, that means I go back to white and I lighten that color. So I'm going to lighten it, and let's see now. That's more like it. I want that to stay in the light range. And let's see, okay, that will work. So I can then make a decision. This whole negative shape right here, this whole negative shape can be this color. This color can speak for this negative shape. Now, how far am I going to take it? What am I going to do with this color? Am I going to vary it any? I think I will give it a little variation. I think I'll let it kind of move a little bit towards the pink side. And let's just carry it on down. We'll just get that variation going right in here. And we can carry it on down and begin to allow it to move into this negative space. And then we can let it overlap and change it a little bit more. This is variation. So we can change, let's keep the value pretty much the same if we can. And so now we can see I said lighter, but you can see that it's lighter but darker than that white space. All right, now we can see how this changed. That was very dark, and now it doesn't feel dark at all. So we can see how that changed. Now let's see, do I want to continue to carry that into this negative space? And do I want to leave? Yes, I think I do. Leave a little bit of that white showing through there as I carry that into that negative space. Then I might step back and look and say, you can see how that space has changed. The movement is changing. In fact, what I did there sort of slowed the movement down because it decreased the value contrast. Now, all this language is visual language, and it's the same language we can use when we're doing realistic painting. If we can pay attention to that sort of thing, that kind of language when we're doing realistic painting, we can make stronger realistic paintings. So say if I do something like that, I let that overlap and come down into this space. And how far do I want to take it into that space? Well, maybe I say, okay, I want a little texture to interrupt here. So I might just do a little scumble in that space instead of having it to be solid all the way through. Now I pulled a little bit of that paint in there. That was all right. I could leave it or not. You make these decisions based on what's happening. And so how far do we want to take that? If I take it to completion, it's going to take longer. You're going to lose interest. So I'm not going to try to take it to completion. I'm just showing you a process here of how to think about constructing, or about spatial constructing, or space constructing in painting. It's simply that. We're simply making our decisions based on what it's doing to the space. And we're keeping that diagonal movement. We're now doing things to emphasize and de-emphasize the diagonal movement. So I could just say, all right, we're going to let that be a little bit textured there. You've seen paintings like that before, where part of the paint is causing the canvas to come through. We still got the diagonal movement. What I want you to notice here is how this movement kind of calms down as this feels stronger over here. I could make a decision if I wanted to, how much as to how much of that I wanted to leave, or how much I want to calm the whole thing down. So I might continue. I'm going to do one more section here just to show you. So I may just say take this negative space and let's calm it down just a little bit, like that. And now you can see this thing beginning to happen, where the calmer spaces are sort of slowing the movement down, and the more contrasty, value-contrasty spaces begin to speed the movement up. So I won't take this any further. I just want to give you an idea of how to think. Now, this is not to say that if you're going to do space construction painting or abstract painting, it's the same thing. It's not to say that you do exactly what I did. It's to say that you take a concept and then you start playing with it and you pay attention to how the space divides. Once you put the first line down, then you're going to begin to have positive and negative space. So you pay attention to how it divides, you pay attention to how the eye is moving. You can calm movement down by getting closer value contrast or closer color contrast. You can go into studying the language of visual, or the visual language of organizing space, and you can experiment more and more and more with other things that you can do. So perhaps that gives you some idea of space construction painting, and maybe you might want to try it out. Be sure to view all of our quick tips, and while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianeMize.com, where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.